and then that's when I will see them.
They have their cameras off.
I know, but I want their cameras on. Remember, that's how we did the last one.
They're asking that message to shut the cameras off.
Well, we're playing.
You have to put on gallery and then go. It's time.
I know. Okay, could you ask her why I can't see?
Because you're not in.
I am in.
Because nobody has their cameras on, probably.
That's not right. I should see. See, I can see Trace. There's there. How come just her?
Okay, just start.
We can see you if you can hear me.
Say. He say he can see me. Hey! All right. Can you please ask Des? I need to see them.
Just ask them. Say, can you guys turn on your...
All right. Thank you. You're lucky I wasn't swearing. Okay. If you can turn on your cameras and turn off your mutes. Oh, yeah. I mean, mute yourself. I don't want to hear you. I want to see you. All right. I'm not doing this shit by myself. There you go. Look at you, saucy chickens, Coach Mike. You're looking mean and lean. Telling you. Come on in. Get the children out of the room. This is not going to be for the kids. All right. Want all the Brads and the Chads and the people who almost made the dub. I need you. Okay. Oh, look at the tiny humans just frolicking. Your video has been disabled. I am not a fan of that. We'll get her reinstated here right away. But I love when you turn your cameras on. This is not absolutely required, but it's so much funner for me to see if I'm crossing a line or not. And generally speaking, I look at 5 of you, and if you're doing this the whole time, holy shit, then I know I need to back it up a little. If you're in it and you're laughing, then it's we're hitting the mark, huh? Because we're gonna talk about politics and hockey and assholery-ish parents. You know, fellas? All right. Come on in. Come on in. I think we got it. Are we good, Martini? Okay, awesome. Des is on the back end. Okay. Listen, everybody, welcome tonight. I mean, thank you so much for joining us. We put this together in the last couple of weeks because I did one like this a year ago, a couple of years ago, maybe. And then again, every hockey season that starts and there's tryouts and, all of the angst happens in dressing rooms. I've been to 2, 3 games and this is full disclosure. I will tell you that the posters in rinks and in lacrosse fields and most where they say this is respect, be nice to people, don't yell at the refs. Those are for me. Okay. So I want you to know that when I wrote this talk, when I say these things, it's because I am emotionally regulated in this moment. If you are a co-parent and you've seen me in a rink and you'd be like, listen, Jody, you don't always follow what you say, you're fucking right. Okay. And neither do all of us. We say that we're good. We're going to hold it together. And then that first 13-year-old little life-sucking Caillou ref who makes a stupid call and costs you the exhibition game, and you're going to throw punch somebody in the stands. Okay, so we're going to normalize some of that tonight. Anyway, let me back it up. So my name is Dr. Jody Carrington. I'm a psychologist. This is not considered therapy. This is my attempt at doing some mental health work in a way that I think we need it most in our communities, because we're going to talk about some stats around loneliness and suicide and all of the things that are happening in our communities these days that never should be the responsibility of parents, co-parents, sporting coaches, particularly in those of us in volunteer positions, but it is. So if you don't like kids, get out. If you do not have the capacity somewhere in your heart to handle a dysregulated parent every so often, beat it. Because when you step into these responsibilities, also, if you have a kid and you're a parent, don't be a dick. That's really what's going to happen by the end of this. Now, again, that is me telling me those same words. All right. Second thing is that I might swear. Now, if you're new here, the last talk I did on overthinking a couple weeks ago, I don't know that I wasn't clear enough on that. We had 1,000 people watching that little event, and we had a few ask for some refunds because the language was not acceptable. So if that's what you're looking for, I'm not your girl. All right. Because I do this on purpose, and I'll tell you why. I am up against tonight 87 other devices that you're going to have around you, your children, your email notifications are on, and you can play block blast quite easily. Every once in a while, if I drop an F bomb, you don't know where it's coming. I'm going to keep your prefrontal cortex right here. Okay. Now, this is not to suggest you do this with the children you coach or the coaches that the team in which you're on. This is just my little skill, and you can borrow it in appropriate places if you want it. Okay. Now, I also can see the chat. Des and Marty are here in the background, so they'll see the chat. At the end of the day, or at the end of our hour, we'll have some time for questions, or I can just dig deeper a little bit into some of the stuff that we're talking about. So you can pop those in the chat anytime you want. If you want to send a private message, just make sure that your name is just your first name or an initial or something like that. I want to make sure that everybody feels that there's some confidentiality if that's what's needed. And the rink is back. And again, people have asked me, are we only going to talk about hockey? I'm going to talk a lot about hockey, but I know I'm a lacrosse mom, and I've also coached baseball. This applies to humans. Okay. So, again, if you're like, shoot, I'm not in the hockey world, it's okay. I will use probably hockey references tonight just because it's what's the biggest in my world right now, but it doesn't matter. A human's a human. So with the season that we commit to as parents and as coaches and as caregivers, there's chaos, there's politics, and most importantly, there's opportunity. And whether your kid is a AAA or a C minus, tier 1 or tier 674, it is irrelevant. Okay. Whether your people have an Instagram page because you got a local mom on there that could throw up shit all the time, whether you got a team snap bitches going wild or not, doesn't matter to me. Okay. The children are all the same. And what happens at the end of the day is the more pressure we put either on, I've seen C kids crumble. I've seen AAA kids so wrought with anxiety, they can't even get to practice. So all of this to say, it doesn't matter to me. Parents, coaches, those of us in charge of little people have one responsibility. The biggest one, I would say, is to be regulated, stable adults in a world where kids are lonelier and more anxious than ever. You can have the best plans. You can draw out all the plays. And I've watched my husband do this. I played hockey my whole life in Viking, Alberta, Canada. I almost married a Sutter. So that should give me a little more points. Pew pew. If you guys don't know about it, there's 7 boys, 6 make the NHL in Viking, Alberta, Canada, which is where I'm from. So it's basically like hockey holiness. Okay. I wanted to date, I was going to say Don Cherry. Whoa. That is not what I meant, but this is almost as bad. Ron McLean. He was my first boyfriend, okay? And he doesn't know that yet, but if any of you guys have a direct line to Ron, you can let him know because I still have a bit of a crush on him. So there's that. Also, McDavid signed today for 2 years. Far less than intended, and what a guy. What a guy. Now we just need to land a cup, okay? So if you're a Flames fan, I still love you, but anyway. Okay. And every time I speak, I say this. Everything tonight happened right here that I created for you today is on Treaty 7 land, which is home of the Blackfoot Confederacy, made up of the Siksika, the Kainai, the Piikani, the Tsuut'ina First Nation, the Stoney Nakoda First Nation, and the Métis Nation Region 3. Part of why I do an acknowledgement every time of Indigenous peoples is because it is the heart of everything we're going to talk about tonight. You should see how fast I can get a kid to skate when I know the name of their dog. The greatest skill set any of us have in coaching and parenting and co-parenting everybody's children in our community is acknowledgement. Because when somebody is seen, they rise. And in a world where we have never been this lonely, I'll give you the data around it in a second, but I think it has never been a more important time to coach. I don't think it's ever been an easier time to coach. to be on a parent hockey team, and I'll tell you why. I mean, the first title of this talk was how to deal with assholery-ish people these days. Okay, and the truth of the matter is, we have never been this overwhelmed or disconnected in the history of our country than we are in this moment. And I think what's really fascinating to me about this is that I'm going to show you some data around it real quick, okay? So this is, let me see. I'm going to share you these slides and we're going to go through it because I want you to see these numbers, okay? So when we take a look at this right here, we are the first generation of parents. We are the first generation of coaches. We are the first generation of caregivers who have access to social media. And why this is critically important is I'll tell you this, not just social media, we're up against a massive collective that is so good at pulling us away from each other. So even just the top four, I Googled this yesterday or this week, the top four, Amazon, Uber, Meta, Apple, they have a collective market share capitalization of $8.49 trillion. The pull into places that many kids should not have access to, sex, drug, and rock and roll. You can download porn in a heartbeat. Many brains of the kids that we are coaching do not have the capacity to navigate those things. And I'm going to share some data with you by the end of this on coaches who are very clear on keeping technology out of the dressing room have a massive, massive increase in their capacity to regulate their team, their ability to stay focused and connected during the game, and their ability to not lose their beloved Jesus mind. Now, the data is new on this, as you know, but I'll tell you why this is quite clear to me. Whoever created us in this human race, so I've been a psychologist for over 20 years. There's two rules to the human race, okay? We are way more alike than we are different. As humans, we all start in exactly the same place and we all end in exactly the same place. Our DNA is 99.98% the same, okay? Race is a social construct. Regardless of age, race, religion, socioeconomic status, gender identity, we all start in exactly the same place. Whoever created us as humans said this, I'm going to make it two rules as you enter this human race. Number one, I'm going to make you people neurobiologically wired for connection, okay? Which means you disconnect from an infant, they die. I do not care how good we get at the AI. And you've got to be good at the AI. If you want to be on top of things, don't be dumb. I'm not doing it because I don't understand it. Okay, well then fine, you're going to die or you'll fall behind. The children know this way more than you, okay? So that's cool. You don't have to be the guy. There's many guys who can do this. But here's what you know better than anybody else in this generation. You and mine. I'm putting us all in the same boat here, okay? The only AI that matters is authentic interaction. When you are good at that, people want to play for you. They want to be on your teams. They want it. I mean, you don't have to be soft. You don't have to be like talking about feelings and shit all the time, okay, Chad? But there is a time when people are super duper lonely and disconnected that if you don't understand the power of authentically connecting, whatever that looks like for you, you will not get the best out of your players, okay? Let me give you this second rule of the human race. Despite the fact that we're neurobiologically wired for connection, okay, you disconnect from an infant, they die, that we will not automate relationship in the foreseeable future. The second rule of the human race is this. The hardest thing we will ever do is look at each other. Isn't that something? We're neurobiologically wired for connection, and the hardest thing we will ever do is look at each other. People are like, that's not true. I'm from Stettler. I'm a very good looker at her of the people. I'm from a small town. You look people in the eye, you shake their hands. Bullshit. If we were in the same room right now and I said to you guys, just look at each other, you know? If I asked you to sit in the dressing room and you're just like, I'm like, just look at the other parents in the room. People are like this, and they get on their phones and they're like all awkward and shit, you know? The hardest thing we will ever do is look at each other. And we've never had so many exit ramps. We've never had so many opportunities to look away. And when I'm looking and watching how my coach interacts with somebody, how the parents interact with each other, whether we shake people's hands at the beginning of the game or the end of the game, whether, you know, you come over and that is stuff you cannot teach kids. You have to show them. It is estimated that our great-grandparents looked at their children 72% more of the time than we look at our babies today. What? 72%? Yes. Why is that a problem? What are we missing 72% of the time? The stuff that matters. The catch of the eye contact, where when a kid's rolling their eyes, when their shoulders are slumped, when they're not able to take a deep breath, when you miss the tells of people. We're good at that relationship piece. We have to be present. Now, we're talking about cell phone policies for kids. You know who needs cell phone policies? Coaches, teachers, us parents. I am terrible at it. My kids are getting so much better than me. I've had a set of 12-year-old twins. I got it so right with the first one who's 15. I got twins. Woo! On this 5-foot frig Ukrainian chassis. They thought that at 38, this would be a good choice for me to get a couple of twins. No. I don't even like kids, actually. I'm a child psychologist by training, not a huge fan. Aaron and I, my personal husband and I are already like, I think we made a bad choice. I didn't know you had a choice to be child free. Like, I didn't know that was a thing. I just thought you had to like get married and have children. What a ride, huh? You people. Can you believe this? I got a PhD in child psych. I wrote the best-selling parenting book of all time, I think, in my mind. Every time I read that book, kids these days, blows my mind. I can't believe how good it is. If you watched me with my own personal children, you wouldn't buy the book. Huh? We know how to do this. We are very good coaches. We are very good parents, usually. If we're not okay, the kids we serve don't stand a chance. And we are the first generation of parents and coaches who have had this much noise, who have had this, people have never had this much access to us. As a volunteer coach, we're not designed for it. I think about how effective my dad was as a volunteer coach. I think about my ringette coach, his name was Coley McLaren, woven into the trajectory of my life because his daughter was our goalie. He had twins. His daughter was our goalie. One played out, which meant every year we had the same coach. And I love him. Every time I come home and I see him, brings me right back. I can tell you every coach I've ever had. And part of the deal around this is, I think about this, okay? I buried my dad 151 days ago. And I think he taught me the most about business, but he also taught me the most about relationships and building people. And what I remember most about him was, I'm like, how come I'm struggling so much in my company and trying to show up for people? Like, I want to punch people most of the time. Do you know what I remember? When he came home from work, nobody could get him. Can you imagine that? When you come home from work, nobody could get you. Think about what happens to us in this generation, okay? Who charges their phone by their bed? Put your hand up. Rest of you are lying. Before you even pee, you're checking that thing. Okay? Because you want to get ahead of it. I mean, you are coaching the Drumheller CU13 fellas. Okay? This is serious. All right? And so you're checking your email. Also, you have a full-time job and parents who are sucking the life out of you and a few kids. Okay? No problem. Things are going well. You know, your own mental health is fine. No, it's not. You're checking your email first thing in the morning. Here's a tip for free. Nothing in there is going to lower your cortisol, okay? You're getting work complaints. People are sending you stupid shit that they could have figured out on their own. If you're a teacher in this province right now, buckle up. You know what I mean? And then you probably signed up for Spanx like me. Fellas, that's us women sign up for these things that suck us in so that we look good when we're over 40. And so when you get one of them Spanx emails, it reminds you you're fat. So all of these things are coming in at you before you even peed. Where's your shoulders? Huh? Right here. Okay. And then you're going to jump in your socials, which we are the first generation of people who have access to social media. Okay. Now, if you're old, you start in the Facebook. If you're medium, you start in the Instagram. And if you're a bit hipper, to my young coaches out there, thank you. You're going to start right into TikTok. Okay. Now, nothing in there is going to lower your cortisol. You're going to be like, look at that bitch. She's working out. You know what? I need a second marriage because look how much fun they're having on round 2. All right. That's what you're thinking. Okay. Before you even get out of bed, this is what's happening. This is how I woke Aaron up. This is my personal husband. Last week, I said to him, he's still asleep. I'm scrolling, looking at all the people look much fancier and fitter than me. And I say, hey, we need family pictures in a bush. And everybody needs to be wearing cream. You know? I haven't got out of bed yet. And then you get out of bed and then if you're like me, you might strap on because we're all athletes. You know what? I almost made the PWHL wasn't even in existence, but I'm fairly sure I would have made her. And most of the fellas who still coach hockey at this age, they were so close, I'll tell you, boys. So close. Almost to the dub there, I'll tell you what. Anyway, I can't even get enough of those stories. But anyway, what happens is we're still trying to stay fit, okay? So we strap on one of these. This is called an Apple Watch, okay? Now I wear one of these because I'm trying not to get the dementia, all right? And I want to close my rings because I'm fit and 50, all right? Now, who has access to me on my wrist everywhere I go all day long? Everybody. This is a cortisol shooter, okay? You know who got access to me right here? My children, my team, my asshole. He's not an asshole. Very nice. My father-in-law. Okay. My very nice father-in-law. And everybody like texting things. How do you get curling on TSN? I am saving the people of Canada. Okay. Right at the moment. And that's coming through on this device. You know who else has access to you? The Team Snap bitches. Right here. All day. Just bzz, 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 asking questions. I don't know, where's the medical form? I gave it to you last night in practice, Claire. I don't think it's appropriate that you cut my... Oh, really? Okay. Then, do you understand? Like, okay. Anyway, this is happening all day. So people have access to you all the time. Where's your cortisol? Where's your shoulders? We're not designed for this. Okay? And I'll show you the ramifications of this. So then we do our jobs during the day. And then we try to be ready because we want to hang on to kids in the rank, or we got to get our babies to the rank, or we got to do all these things, or the whatever. But this is happening, okay? And then at the end of the day, you know what you're supposed to do? You're supposed to frolic with your children. You're supposed, because I mean, you've got them in sports. You're giving them everything more than you ever had, okay? Your parents had a day of rest. Do we have a day of rest? No, we don't. Guess where I was on Sunday? 2 rinks. Count them. Guess who I was yelling at? The ref, okay? And I stood up in Didsbury, Alberta. It's an exhibition game. U13 exhibition game. Some life-sucking kid cross-checked another kid right on the numbers. And I can't even help myself. This is what I do. Come on! Control your kids! That's what I said out loud. My license plate says Dr. Jody. Sorry to the RMH parents. I didn't mean it. I'm sure number 20 is a hell of a nice kid. Okay. It's an exhibition game, fellas. Okay. Take her down a bit, Carrington. It's going to be okay. You know what I mean? This is a function of where we're at in this world and where our babies are at in this world. Let me give you some, I'm going to show you this data real quick, okay? All right. There you go. Got it. Okay. So when we think we're good, we have access to social media in our phones. All right. Social media is not social. I know you didn't come here for this, but I want to give you the context before we jump into what we do about it. Your phone is designed specifically to keep you there. Okay. So my personal husband, I don't know if you know, he's a feedlot nutritionist. Right now he's at a dairy conference in Dubai. Didn't know they feed a lot of dairy cows. It's a bit sus, but he's there at a dairy conference. Okay. Now you can imagine what's on his phone. Bull sales, ideal carcasses of a heifer, and significant amount of golfing information. Okay. If I'm going to scroll on his Instagram or his social media, how long am I staying there? I'm not interested. It's designed specifically for him. If he comes over to mine, how long is he going to stay there? Women are going to change the world. That's what's right at the top. Women in leadership is the only thing that's going to move companies forward. That's what's top of mine. Perimenopausal nutrition. How long you think that fella's sticking around there? Just scrolling, you know? No. You have designed your social media profile to be specific to you and all the things you like and love. Very specific to keep you there. To the tune of $8.49 trillion. Okay. So here's what I want you to remember. Two most important rules of the human race. We're wired for connection, but the hardest thing we will ever do is look at each other. We are about to step into a reckoning that we didn't ask for. Technological advances are not the problem. How we use them is the issue. And what we have seen in kids, and generally speaking, I've never seen levels of anxiety and depression this high. I've never seen levels of suicide attempts and completion this high. We are the first generation of history on this planet that are killing themselves faster from emotional illness than from physical illness for the first time in history. And we've never had this much access to resources or research. What is happening? People say to me, we're in, you know what we are? We're in a mental health crisis. No, we're not. I mean, we are essentially, but I think we're in an understandable human response to a loneliness epidemic. Okay. Here's the data around it. 36% of adults. So if you think about parents, those of us going to the rink with our babies every day, almost 40%, because this data is about 6 months old now, report serious loneliness. 50%, 1 in 2 of the players you're coaching would say, in the past few weeks, I'm not sure anybody genuinely cares about me. And people are like, what? What do you mean? They have 1,000 friends on the Snap face. How can they be lonely? Okay. Here's the issue. Esther Perel talks about this often. You can have 1,000 friends on Facebook and nobody to take you to the airport. There is a big difference between the depth of relationships and the breadth of relationship. And it's not just the kids that we see in this regard. It is also parents, particularly young parents. If you are coaching some of the younger ones, our incompetency as parents have never been this high. We don't know if we're supposed to be telling them to suck it up and be better and not get, are we supposed to be spending more time with them? What's the plan here? The new generation, the old generation. When I had our first son in 2010, I had one opinion. I had access to one opinion that could dethrone me, that could crush my soul. Who was that? My mother-in-law. You're right. And I would be overwhelmed and exhausted because, I mean, I was a child psychologist for 10 years on a locked psychiatric inpatient unit at the Alberta Children's Hospital prior to becoming a mother. Okay. I've seen the worst of the worst in kids. You gave me my own personal child and I have never felt more incompetent. For sure he had hydrocephalus. He was on the spectrum, I thought 3 times in one day. I cured them all. And every night I was supposed to have him on a what do you call it? A schedule. That's what they said. And you expect when you're expecting shit, huh? He's not on a schedule. He's not sleeping. I'm crying. Okay. My mother-in-law, I'm crying. I don't know how to do this. You know, she said, "Oh, for God's sake, Jody, just put a little booze in the bottle." That's what she said to me. I quote. Lori Grant said those words to me. Now, she is a badass. She had 3 boys, lived on a farm. I think she was picking apples, baking pies while she gave birth to my husband. Okay. She wouldn't have missed a beat. She would have shot him out and kept making pies and took him to the field. Okay. That's how strong she was. Me on the other, I don't know. I had access to one opinion that would make me feel like I didn't know what I was doing. You think about the parents coming into your dressing rooms today, or those of us on here as parents. In the middle of the night when you're checking whether your kid's normal, how many opinions do you have access to? 48 million. Yeah. 48 million very uneducated people dressed in cream saying, you know what the issue is? Let's just be real here. Did you have a dolphin-assisted pool birth? Oh, you didn't. Okay. So your kid's going to have the ADHD then because out of the gate, if there's no lavender essential oils, he's screwed. Okay. So, and you fed him red dye. Holy shit. And there's been a lot of screen time. Well, you know what? I don't even know why you had kids. So you're not fit. This is the consumption of data that's happening for many parents. And so then when they come in to organize sports or we come into places we feel like we're messing our kids up, we're not doing enough, being enough, all those things. Okay. So this overwhelming sense right now of a clash at the rank of people who are lonely and feeling incompetent is massive. And when I'm telling you this only because it has never been easier to be effective. Mostly because the bar has never been this fucking low in the history of the free world. I'll tell you what, you be nice to somebody they'll give you coach of the year. You light up around some kid, and here's the issue. The ones who need it the most are the hardest to give it to. If you're in this business because you're looking for the nice kids who are using their words and making good choices and come to the rink on time and make it doing all the things great, good for you. Get out. You even at the highest level in the show, even if you made her to the show, okay? I'll tell you, they got more struggles than anybody. Okay. I personally know Biz. Biz Nasty and I have the same. We're managed by the same person. And I say to my management company all the time, every time Biz takes his tarps off or his tarp off at some bar, I'm like, you're welcome. You're welcome. I'm the easiest thing that's ever come across your plate. But here's the deal. What I think is so critically important about this is that we've never had access to this much noise. And there's never been so many opportunities to have regulating others in places that can just do one thing, walk kids back home to very important things, the best parts of them. Okay. Back to the best in all of them. So loneliness is so much more than a feeling. It takes away your creativity. It takes away your improvisation. It takes away your ability to sort of get innovative about things. How do I make a better play? What do I do about this? How do we think about this? Like, what do you think about those kind of things? And youth in sport, team participation is linked to much lower risk of mental health, and team sports buffer stress better than individual sports by a landslide. By a landslide. Okay. Here's what you need to know this. Okay. If you 0.008% of all of our players in this country will make it to an NCAA level. 0.008%. Of that, only 7% of NCAA men's hockey players reach major pro leagues. We are prepping them for the beer league. Okay? 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 Chad, look at my eyes. We are prepping them for the beer. We are preparing them to be good humans, to navigate loss and emotion and rejection and getting cut from teams and having kids be assholes in dressing rooms and bullying and saying inappropriate things and looking at porn and taking dick pics. That is the opportunity for us as parents to walk them through hard things. They do not have a script for this. And when we agree to step into these things, become parents on teams and coaches on teams, what we're saying is, let me be your community. Let me help you through hard things. Because we were never meant to do any of this alone. Okay. Elite athletes, 16 to 34% report mental health symptoms in season and up to 45% anxiety and depression in some studies. So we're talking about 50% of all kids who even make it to the higher levels say so much of angst, 1 in 2 almost, live in their body as a result of the pressure that comes with sport. Okay. So I'm going to give you the neurochemistry or the neurophysiology behind this right now, okay? Because if you've seen me do a talk like this before, you've seen me do this, but this is the greatest thing that changes my life as a coach once I understood emotional dysregulation, okay? You want, if you're looking to build the best team ever, what I am always interested in is those who are emotionally regulated, those who have the capacity to stay calm in times of distress, okay? Here's the definition of emotional regulation: how not to lose your friggin' mind. That is the greatest thing you will ever teach a kid, including your own. How do you teach somebody how to stay calm? You can't tell them. You have to show them. Anybody still married? The last time your sweet muffin of love said to you, "Oh, Andrew, relax," did you go, "Do you want to make out?" Never in the history of telling somebody how to calm down does calm down work, okay? And when kids have really lost their minds, it's not that they don't want to listen, they can't. Here's the neurophysiology behind it, okay? I want you to put your hand up like this and tuck your thumb on the inside. If you've heard me speak before, you've seen this, but just do it with me. Wrap your finger around your thumb, okay? That's a hand model of your brain. Okay. So take a look of it. It's about the same size of the brain that's sitting in your skull right now. It's ridiculous to me how our body mimics on the outside what's happening on the inside. Okay. If it were to fit in your skull, it would fit in there like this. Your arm is your spinal cord, your wrist is your brain stem. Okay. Flip your fingers up. Tucked inside there is fight, flight, and freeze. The 3 emotional regulation strategies we all get for free: fight, flight, and freeze. Okay. First, most primitive part of our brain. This developed first. We developed from the inside out. What separates humans from most other mammals is the prefrontal cortex that wraps around the limbic system. That lives right above your balls, okay? Your eyeballs. Everything you've ever learned in your life lives above your balls, all right? Now you won't forget it. Everything you've ever learned, your first childhood phone number, most of you can tell it to me right now. Okay. If you grew up in this country, most of you could. I was speaking in Saskatchewan not very long ago, and this is how old I'm getting. I was like, does anybody remember their first childhood phone number? And this woman puts up her hand. She said, yes, I do. Yes, I do. It was 4. 4. She had, wow. Okay. But most of us, I can tell you, mine was 336 3234. Everything you've ever learned in your life lives up there. Okay. Any language you speak, any instrument you play, if you're a golfer, your best golf swing lives up there. The wrist shot that you've practiced 677 times, the drill, your backward skating finesse, all up here. Okay. My friend Dan Siegel said, I want you to think about this like a lid. When your lid is on, you have access to everything you've ever learned, including how to use your words, how to apologize, how to have empathy. Okay. If nobody's never looked you in the eye and said, baby boy, mommy is so sorry, or listen, son, it's going to be okay, you do not have the capacity to give it away. If your whole life people have said you're a piece of shit, shut up, or if primary caregivers are drunk, high, absent, emotionally dysregulated, all you come into this world with is very few things: fight, flight, and freeze, which means when your lid is on, you look great. Your capacity to keep that lid on tends to be compromised if every time you've got distress, somebody says, shut up, or hits you, or tells you to suck it up because you're skating like a girl. Okay. Now, everything you've ever learned in your life lives on that prefrontal cortex. When the lid is on, Dan Siegel would say you have access to it. Okay. If you've ever looked at your own personal children, those of you that are parents, and you're proud of them, okay, they're using their words, they're being kind. You maybe watch them interacting in the community, maybe with their grandparents or the times that they've been very nice to their siblings, maybe, and you're like, oh, God damn it, it's going to be okay. Like when they're sleeping, that's who your children are. That's who you're raising. Okay, we rarely judge our kids here, but let me tell you, mamas and daddies, you're doing okay. Because I see your babies at the rink. I see your babies in calm situations, and they're beautiful humans. You've done a beautiful job with them. Okay. It's like if you've ever went on a second date in your life, you decided to go on that second date because your prospective partner's lid was on. Okay. You ever heard this? She's flipped her lid. He's lost his friggin' mind. That's the definition of emotional dysregulation. You don't lose your ability to be great. You lose access to it. And what I'm most interested in is how many people have taught you how to keep that lid on when things don't go your way. When a call doesn't go your way, when somebody's asked you to sit a shift because we need to play somebody else, when you get a penalty, when there's been like something, okay? What happens when you bring a baby home from the hospital is they lose their friggin' mind. They don't have a lot up there yet to say, listen, Dad, I need you to change my bomb. Grandma's voice is annoying. They lose their friggin' mind. What is the job of big people? The job of big people is to respond. In fact, we're neurophysiologically wired for this. If we come upon a crying infant, this is universal. Even if you've never picked up a baby and you're by yourself out frolicking in the woods in Manitoba, and you come upon an infant crying in a car seat, you are neurobiologically wired to pick that baby up if you're regulated. You can't just walk by that kid and be like, oh shit, I hope somebody gets that one. Okay? We are wired for connection. So you'll pick that baby up and engage in a rhythmic exchange, some form that looks like this. That's universal. People do this in Nigeria and Afghanistan and Italy and Coquitlam, all across the land. Because why? Our DNA as humans is 99.98% the same. And we all started in exactly the same place. What is the first sound every human on this planet felt first? Bump, 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 bump. The heartbeat of our mamas. And whether she's alive or you have a relationship with her or not, your understanding of emotional regulation, that rhythmic exchange of slowing things down, is in your bones. You're already very good at this. What kids don't need in times of distress is somebody to tell them what to do, unless they're not safe, unless safety's an issue. They're throat punching each other. Then you're not going to be like, oh, we got it. You're going to grab their shoulder pads and rip them apart, okay? Gently. But the idea is 98% of the time, what we're doing is trying to get kids to regulate, okay? And when I get a lid back on, the kid has access to everything I've ever taught, every drill we've ever practiced. When they are dysregulated, they lose access to it, not their ability. They don't forget all the times you practice the wrist shot. They don't forget how to speak kindly to the refs. They don't forget any of those things. They lose access to it temporarily. So the question for me is always, how do we get that lid? How do we bring them back home? In the words of Ram Dass, that hang above in my office, in our kitchen, this changed everything for me. Every book I've ever written, I refer to this quote. He said this: "We are all just here walking each other home. Nobody gets out of here alive." When you have agreed in this time to take a volunteer position or even a paid position in minor sport coaching, it is the holiest work on the planet. Because I promise you, if you show up in any capacity, you will not only change a life, you will save one. I can tell you already in this season, my baby girl came off the ice 3 days ago, and we struggled hard for a couple of years to keep her in sport, to figure out how we navigate dressing rooms. She's going to prison. Or me. I don't know what something's going to happen first. But anyway, she came off the ice this year. Second time. She made a team, and oh my God, she jumped in the car, and it was the best thing I can tell you I've ever heard. She said, "Mom, I love this team." I said, "What?" She said, "You know who I really love?" And I said, "Who?" "Coach Clint." I said, "Why?" Do you know what he did in the dressing room, Mom? He said to everybody, "Did you see Olivia do that back check?" And Mom, everybody cheered for me. I said, "Really? I love him, Mom. He's so funny." And he was making jokes, and he knows everybody's name. And like, I mean, I don't want to make out with him, but I literally, because he's a bit young and I'm married, but I came home on the team snap and I sent Coach Clint a note and just said, "I need you to know how much that meant tonight. Please don't underestimate what happens when you show up for these babies. I know you give up a lot of time and energy and money." And then it's so interesting. I got to tell you the story too. His mom, grandmas are there all the time in the stands watching things. And so I know who his mom was watching. And we were chatting about something. And I just said, "Can I just tell you something? Your son's amazing." And what? I mean, she's this, whatever she is, 7-year-old lady. And I'm like, you raised a good one there. He single-handedly has got our girl ready to play this sport, and she's going to play so hard for him because he noticed her. Isn't that something? It's interesting to me because it doesn't take a whole bunch to get a lid on. And what I think is fascinating about it is that there is so many of us that are struggling. The data around this is interesting. There are more single-parent households than ever before in the history of our country, which means many parents and grandparents are navigating lots of emotions. The rink is often the place where co-parents meet up. I've coached on teams where there's restraining orders, where parents can't be in the same dressing room as other kids. And I think to myself, okay, this is so much bigger than hockey. Yeah. And making sure, like some parents can't sit together in the stands or whatever. And I think, oh, what is happening in this little human's head, trying to decide where mom's sitting and dad's sitting. And I'm worried because they're not keeping their eye on the puck. Right. So really taking a look at sometimes what's happening. We are the first generation of parents and coaches who have access to social media. And we're just doing the best we can with what we got. And giving ourselves a little bit of grace in the truth of all of this, I think, is going to be what's so critically important. So in your resources that I gave you, I sort of reminded you about the lid flipping 101. What is so critically important when a lid is flipped is, I want you to remember this: calm is contagious. Calm is contagious. And if you're not a loud person anyway, calm is contagious in the dressing room, calm is contagious in the stands. And oftentimes I am looking to see who the parents are that are going to be the regulating others for our team. And sometimes it's not me. Anybody who's been on my team can attest to that. My personal husband generally has to sit by me. But if there's somebody that can say, no, you know what, that was a good call. It's going to be okay. Yeah, we got it back. Let's get it back, guys. If there is those voices of reason that are kind of spread within the stands, don't be scared to use your voice to say those things. Actually, that was a good call. No, that was offside. Yeah, no, I know. I think that ref's 13. Yeah, no, yeah, just like, I mean, we have a 13-year-old too. It's this capacity to sort of be like, how do we regulate? Okay. Because calm is contagious. You can't tell anybody, you got to show them. And I think that how we get there is a couple of things. Clear is kind. I really love this statement. Clear is kind, but clear is also calming. And I know we're at the beginning of the season, but I'll tell you, I've been in some of the best parent meetings I've ever seen this season. Just really gathering faces together, knowing the names of parents, really being clear on what concerns there might be, but also being very clear on expectations. And, not because we're here to sort of tell anybody how to do things, but we're going to be a big part of the next few months for your kids. And we're probably going to spend a lot of time together. So, I'll put all the effort I can into practice and do everything I can to know the names of the kids and you. But please always, let me know how things are going. This is the manager. This is the whatever. That becomes really critical. And on a couple of teams, just even they make us, I think many times make you sign coaches, parents, agreements to things. But really just sort of talking about that in the moment doesn't mean it'll last the whole year. I mean, for me, it didn't even last to the first exhibition game, but it then always gives you that to come back to if there's a one-on-one that needs to happen. Okay. Elite athletes, which I think is really interesting, face high rates of anxiety and depression. So the NHLPA launched the First Line program in 2024-25. So know that even in the elite spaces, the NHL has only started doing this. This isn't something that, I think we're way far behind in the world of hockey and, any minor sport and emotion. And dysregulated adults escalate kids, regulated adults anchor them. So that's what becomes really critical when we think about the big people, because I got to tell you, most parent coaches or most coaches are parents. Some of them aren't. Some parents, some coaches just come in out of the goodness out of their own heart, but most of us have some experience, either our kids on the team. And so I think what we have as big people is really something on our plates like we've never seen before. We are the first generation of parents that have also been this sleep deprived. So let's hold that into context right now and then consider the kids for a second. And I'm going to give you some data around them. What walks into your dressing room? If we consider us parents in a place where we haven't had this much access to noise, this sort of amount of information to suggest that we're doing everything wrong, that many of us, at least almost 50% of us are all navigating divorce or two-parent households. That's a lot of angst and anxiety that happens when you come into the room, which means your shoulders are up like this, okay? Doesn't excuse or condone behavior. I'm just trying to give you some context, okay? If we switch this to the kids, I ask teachers this often, but anybody I speak to, have you noticed a difference in kids these days? And, if I were to ask you if you've been coaching for more than 5 years, 10 years in particular, have you noticed a difference in kids these days? And generally people say this, yes. They have less attention. They have less respect. It's harder to get their eyes. They're always on their devices. They don't know how to work. They don't know how to play hard. They're just whiny. And it goes on and on and on. Okay. And it's terrible. I mean, it sounds like the history of the future of Canada is not good. Okay. Or North America for that matter. And then I always say to you, or I always ask this question, have you noticed a difference in parents these days? And most times people say, yeah, we've never seen parents this overwhelmed, this exhausted, this much on their devices, this disconnected. And here's the truth. If the big people aren't okay, the little people don't stand a chance. I've assessed and treated over 1,000 kids in this country, and not one time have I met a bad kid. Not one time. I have met a lot of kids who are increasingly more dysregulated and lonely. And that becomes, even with the best coaching plans, impossible to coach. Not because they don't want to learn or they don't want to be there, they can't. When your lid is flipped like this, even if you have the best whiteboards, you can't learn anything because a limbic system can't learn. You go here when you're in fight or flight or freeze. So this, you flip your lid when you're getting chased by a bear, when you've just been in a car accident, when your body says the world isn't safe. If you have just been in, I don't know, a domestic violence situation, if you're worrying about what's happening in the world, if you're worried about if you got to go to dad's or mom's tonight, if you have enough financial resources to do what you're doing, if people are telling you you're kind of not a good kid most of the day, where's your lid? If you've been on devices all day long, if you've been, you really haven't even looked at people, if you like been like this, okay? So, how do we regulate? What are some things that we do to get lids back on? We're going to talk about that in a second. But I want to tell you this, you're also up against it right now in a little bit more. This is the bad news, okay? I promise you we're going to get to the good news. Kids, we've never seen kids this sleep deprived. Okay, now, particularly in Alberta, I know some of you are here. We have a teacher strike that just started today, super dysregulating for our babies and our big people. And sleep deprivation is going to be a big thing. It always has been. I mean, I'm many times I'm in bed before our 15-year-old, and the job is you need to be off your devices at 10:30. How good is that brain at doing that all by themselves? Not good. How good are they to follow the rules in a dressing room if there's no big people there? Don't look at your phones. Nobody show porn. Nobody do say the things that you're not supposed to say. How good do you think they are at that? They're not. We are looking at our kids 72% less of the time than we did just 1.5 generations ago. The capacity for walkers to be physically present in an effort to get them through hard things is not coddling. It is essential. Because here's the data around suicide. I'll show you this in a second. I'm going to show you this right now. This is why I will spend the rest of my life working in the police world and agriculture and teaching. That's not it. In this country, 3 out of every 4 successfully completed suicide is a man. Middle-aged white men, actually, are the highest cohort that not only attempt but complete. And I'll tell you why. Why do you think, actually, I'll just ask you this question. The most privileged among us, white, straight, able-bodied, and with a penis. Now, we can argue whether that's the most privileged or not, but the data is irrefutable, so I'll go toe-to-toe any day with you. You have the most access to resources, okay? That same cohort is killing themselves at remarkably higher rate than any other cohort on the planet. Why? I'll tell you. For this simple reason. Boys don't cry. Do you see? Anxiety and depression will not kill you. Not talking about it might. And the intention behind sport is to evoke emotion. You should be pissed off if you lose a game, if there's a bad call. You should be elated and overjoyed if you score. You should feel the range of that's the beauty of sport. You should make friends in other communities. You should learn that this town is not very nice. You should figure out how this coach does it and this one doesn't. Why I really like playing for this guy and why I really like playing for this woman. What is it about this mom in the dressing room that is awesome? What about this dad who did these? Those are the experiences that you cannot replicate. I cannot tell my kids how to be inclusive and kind. I have to show them. And they're going to have to fuck up. I want your kids to get arrested at least once. I want your kids to get caught vaping in the bathroom. It is not the behavior that's the problem. It's the response that matters. Because how do we walk them through it? If you don't know where the edges are unless you push up against them. You can set your rules out. You sure should. People need to know the expectations. And then what happens when they push up against them? That's the key. How do we walk them back through that? Grayson, step into my office. The hallway. You know what I mean? I'll give you an example of this real quick. I've told this story before, I'm going to tell you again. So let's say I'm coaching, okay, and I'm driving a bunch of kids to hockey, okay, and I got Grayson, Mason, Kaysen, and Layson in the back seat. Now I don't know if you've ever driven kids to hockey, but they think you're deaf when you sit in the front seat. It is the thing I will do for the remainder of my life. Driving kids to hockey, being present as a mom. I no longer spend a lot of time on the bench because I can't. I'm not home enough to be able to give the team the time it deserves. But my God, I miss those days. And but every chance I can to be at my kids' games, I want to be the driver because what happens is you gather the most incredible intel. Okay. And what I've heard many times is stories like this. Okay. Grayson, Case, and Mason Layson are in the back seat and they're like, hey, you know, 6'7" and whatever the fuck. Okay. So a little that. And then, and you guys, if you're not on the 6'7" bus, you're old. All right. So learn about it right now. It's a basketball term. I thought it was something to do with balls or boobs or something like this. And so I was like, that's inappropriate. It's not. It isn't. It's about the height of a basketball player in a TikTok thing that got cut. Anyway, 6'7". We have a player on Livy's team that's number 67. Every time she scores, the entire do that. Anyway, never mind. So they're in the back seat doing their thing, and you hear Mason say to Grayson, "Hey, what do you think about that chick? She's hot, eh? Did you bang her?" Now, I'm driving. Okay. I'm hearing the fellas talk about this in the back. No, man, you should bag her. She's so hot. Okay. What is my responsibility right now as a parent, as a coach, as a whatever? Okay. Am I going to pull these kids over? Am I going to pull over on Highway 2 and line these life sucking cayuse up on the side of the road and look at them and be like, listen, that is not how we speak about women. Is that what I'm going to say? No. What's going to happen? The second I get back in that car and look what's going on between them in the back seat, what they're going to do. Now, you get to decide as a parent whether, when, and where you want to intervene. It is not if I'm going to have that conversation, it's when. Many times we try to be cool because we're having a flashback to teenage years. So we're like, hey, boys, hey, boys will be boys, but come on, that's a bit raunchy. If I have the capacity, what I would do, and I'll tell you why, is I would get to the game and I might say something like, hey, guys, at the end of the game, I'm going to call Grayson, whoever's leading the pack in this particular conversation. I'm going to be like, hey, buddy, can I talk to you for a second? Yeah, you bet, coach. Can I tell you something? Out there tonight, you were my best D. That shot from the point, I can tell you've been working on it because, buddy, you can rip it. That is so amazing. Oh, thanks, coach. Huh. Where's his lid? On. Now I'm going to teach. You know what I'm not so proud of, kiddo? When we were driving tonight, I heard you in the back seat, and listen, I wasn't trying to eavesdrop, but I heard this that you were talking about bagging that chick. Oh, coach, sorry, boys will be boys. I shouldn't have said those things in front of a woman. Look at my eyes. You have a sister, and I have two daughters. You are a talented player. You're a leader on this team. And if you speak about people like that, if people take video of you speaking about people like that, if you really lead in that way, it's not going to serve you well, kiddo. You're better than that. And that's not what I'm going to tolerate in my dressing room. Got it? Okay. Oh, sorry, coach. Now listen, is his lid on? Did I just create a neural pathway? Potentially. Will I have to do that potentially another 5 or 6 times in this season? In some form or fashion? Maybe, right? Kids are slow learners. This is the problem with children generally. But what you permit, you promote. Let me tell you that one more time. What you permit, you promote. And oftentimes when you approach them in a herd, they will kill you. Don't be dumb, okay? You cut them bitches from the herd, okay? And you try as much as you can to go one-on-one if you have an opportunity to do that. You don't have to catch everyone. You're not that good. And you don't have to. That's not your job. Your job isn't to catch as many of these as you possibly can. You're not there to do this. You are there whenever possible to navigate some of those conversations. If you are not present, you will miss them. And sometimes those conversations are the most critical piece on the planet, okay? So as a parent, as a coach, as all those kind of things, right? It becomes really interesting to think about what that means when a lid is up and when I get a lid on. Here's another thing that gets a lid back on real quick. Food or water, drink. Okay? You can't chew and swallow with a flip lid. Neurobiologically impossible. So if I have a kid who's just had a rough shift or he's bad call and he's crying on the bench, or they get so frustrated they've got tears coming. Sometimes if they think they've been hurt, you have to drag them off. Whatever. I'm going to do my very best to either get them to have a drink of water. On the younger teams, I'll always have snacks. When I was on the bench, I would always have a snack. Just, okay, let me see. Let's take up your helmet. Let's take a look. Oh my, I don't think it's broken. We're going to give her a shot. I'm going to put a little bit of luck back in your skate. Okay. That's what I'm going to do right now. Right. So with the little guys, super easy to be able to put luck in their sticks, luck in their skates. Nicknames work across the whole gamut. Really being able to sort of like slow somebody down, get their eyes, give them a drink of water. When we get to the older ages, things like, let's take a walk. Real quick. Do this for me. I've often worked with teams where I've explained the lid flip to them. So that, if you have a team that sort of like needs to understand when they lose it, I lose the best of them. And we have to make a plan on how we're going to get you back when we're having a hard time. If you have a set of language around that, that's great. Many times you just need to know it as the big person and try to navigate what that'll look like. Okay. So things like, before a problem happens, you'll know the kids that you're going to struggle with before start of a season. They're not these guys. Generally, they're not surprises. Okay. Especially if you've been coaching in the same town for a while, if you've been in the same as a parent group for a while, the ones that struggle, the ones who need it the most are the hardest to give it to. Make a plan. Who knows this kid? Who gets along with this kid? Has anybody, coached this babe before? As a parent group, are we aware of how we can be supportive in that way? To take a look at, just usually we're aware. And how then are we making an extra effort at the end of the game to come over and look at so-and-so in the eye and be like, buddy, this was awesome. I really liked when you did this, and super cool. Like, all of that kind of stuff. Like it matters so much. I cannot even tell you. And we often sort of wonder about, what is everybody else doing around it? Don't underestimate your ability, particularly ones that struggle a lot. Take a look as parents. So as coaches, that's really critical, but also as parents, noticing how we can sort of engage with each other and talk about I just watched this not very long ago. This was in lacrosse at this season, just really like the kid that always got in the penalty box was always getting kicked out. I just talked to mom a little bit about like, what, everyone was telling me in the dressing room, that, your son is just so funny. He's just had such a great time playing with him this year, and tears. I don't know what else to do. Like he just loses it every time, and I feel such a shitty mom. I'm like, hey, buddy, it's okay. And then I was like, okay, now this is our job, is to have a little bit more conversation with this kid about how important he is on the team, and how I know sometimes it's really hard to not want to hurt other people when you get mad. But let's talk about that. You understand? So I think sometimes it's a little bit about navigating those pieces. The ones who need it the most are not surprises. And so how do we sort of get eyes on that? Because what I think matters is that we sort of understand that this is nobody else's issue to kind of fix. If we sort of take each of our teams as sort of a community, not that you're going to push yourself in places that you're not wanted, but I'll tell you, kindness goes a long way. Not that you're going to be like, hey, how about you try this? Or your kid's a bit of a dick. No, thank you. We don't need your advice there, Cindy. What we need is people who show up relentlessly for each other. Okay. And I think that there's two kinds of kids, and coaches, this is for you. I'll tell you this real quick. I wrote about this in Kids These Days because all kids need the exact same thing. How you meet their needs matter. Okay. And if I were to just separate kids into two groups, which is way too simplistic, but just go with me for the sake of this, there's two kinds of kids on this earth who I've coached. Okay. They're either flat Stanleys or Cailloux. Okay. And I don't care how age, if you're coaching like a U21 team, I don't know if that's a thing, but anyways, or you're right there with the 4-year-olds. Okay. They're in your head. You can figure this out by week 2. You got Cailloux which if you're maybe not old enough, Caillou was a cartoon that was on this life-sucking whiny bald kid that was so goddamn annoying, and he was like, coach, coach. He'd be the kind of kid that's like, can I go, coach, and like they want to like lick you and talk to you, or like they're always complaining, they're negative, the shit's always wrong. Can you fill my water bottle? My skates are too tight. I can't. That. You've coached a Caillou if you've ever like came into the dressing room and saw those kids are there and you leave. If you see them, you can hear them coming down the dressing room because they're like, You're like, fuck, I hope he was sick. You know, that I'm just kidding. You probably don't because we love all children, but it's like those kind of ones. Okay. So there's the Caillou on one side. Okay. Now, oftentimes what happens with these fellas or these children, these humans, is that historically we have ignored them. We've engaged in what's been called planful ignoring in an attempt to get them to stop their behavior. So we're engaging with the kids who we want them to act like. Okay. So we're not making eye contact. They're on the bench. They want to go on first. Their arm is up. They're trying everything they can to get your connection. And you're just like, nope, you are sucking up too much of my time. I'm going to pay attention to Zoe because Zoe came with pigtails and her mom cut oranges and she gave me a card. Okay. So you're like, Zoe, well, what was that? Would you like to go for? And oh, what's his name over there in the corner is like, these kids are my beat 'em to the punch kids. I want you to do the exact opposite of what you tend to want to do, which is to ignore them, but beat them to the punch, get to them before they have to get to you. So these are the kids that I would, if I see Caillou coming, I'm going to be in the dressing room waiting for him. If he has a specific spot, I'm going to be sitting in his spot. If he comes in and I'm going to be like, oh, Caillou's here. Hey, Caillou, good to see you. Buddy, can I take your water bottle? Let me get that filled up for you. I'm so glad you're here today. Would you be on my first line? Huh? You guys, wouldn't that be awesome? Yeah. What happens to, you can imagine a Caillou kid, if you've ever coached a Caillou kid, what happens to Caillou when you beat him to the punch? He thinks you've been drinking. Okay. What do you mean? Huh? He doesn't know. What? Oh, okay. Yeah. Here's my water. Okay. What that does is you put his lid back on. When he comes in revved up, you're going to refill it before he destroys the team, before he gets you. Now, I will tell you this. We've been taught in this generation, I'm putting us all together, that when kids are attention seeking, you ignore them. Anytime you call a kid attention seeking this season, I want you to change that with connection seeking and see what happens to you. This kid is so connection seeking. He's so empty, or she's so empty, or they're so empty for whatever reason. And I'm telling you, the ones that need it the most will break your heart if I told you why. Because we ask this question all the time. What is wrong with this one? What is wrong with this one? We never ask this. What happened to this one? And it's not intended to bust your soul. It's intended to provide empathy so that it doesn't bust your soul. Get back to the best parts of why we do this work, why we, in privileged positions of coaching and getting our kids to play sport, that we can be in a place to give a nod or a high five or a compliment. I'm telling you guys, I'm telling you, it has never been this important. So if I have a Caillou, he's my beat him to the punch kind of kid. Okay. What I'm trying to do to the best of my ability, sometimes I won't get there because I'm late or somebody else has to do it or whatever, but I'm going to have a plan in my head that whenever I can, I'm going to try to get to regulating him. Okay. Because then he's going to be ready to play quicker. Okay. Now I'm going to take you to the opposite end of the scale, which is somebody I call a flat Stanley. Okay. These are the quiet, hoodie up, hair down, don't make eye contact. Sometimes they're mean, but sometimes they're late. They'll come into a dressing room sort of like dragging their bag a little bit slower. You're kind of wondering if they even give a shit. They don't look very engaged sometimes. Okay. So like we can group a whole bunch of kids in that category as we could group a whole bunch of kids over there, but let's just go with that. What if I treated a flat Stanley the same way I treated a Caillou? Okay, so flat comes into my dressing room, okay, hoodie up, hair down, doing the thing. And I'm like, hey, everybody, Flat's here. Cut Flat, come here, buddy. Come here. High five. Do you got where's your water bottle? Like, what is Flat Stanley gonna do? He gonna quit. He not coming back. He thinks I'm a lunatic. He's embarrassed. He's mortified. He doesn't even want anybody to know he's in the room. You know, whatever he's hanging on to is big. He's my low and go slow kid. So I need to fill him up the same degree that I fill up Stan or Caillou. The Cailloux usually take way more of your energy. Okay. Because they may be in your face and they may be asking questions and doing all the things all the time, right? But Flat Stanleys, and sometimes you can just, you know, if you have assistant coaches or if you have parents on your team, or, you know, you can sort of start to say, hey, can we make sure this kid's doing okay? Like whatever the deal is. But this is a guy that I wasn't going to go low and go slow with. I'm going to nod at him. I'm going to acknowledge him in some way when he comes in the dressing room if I could get his eyes. He's also the kid that then on the bench after a first shift, I'll come over and maybe put my hands on his shoulder pads, or I might just sort of lean over and be like, hey, that was awesome. You're my bestie out there today. Keep it up. That plays just what I wanted to see. And you know this as a coach. You know this as a parent. If you've ever had a Caillou give you a sideways smirk, like you tell them something like that and they give you one of these, like, you can retire. That right there is holy work. Okay? Holy work. And you know when you get it. You know what I mean? I can see some of you going like, And generally it's sometimes if you're lucky enough to have a big enough coaching staff, like even in this volunteer world, like you have a dad that's super loud, you have a mom that's super quiet, like you can also sort of be like, hey, they seem to be doing much better with you. Like, but just know what we're aiming for is to get emotional regulation or somebody who's going to be the most effective at bringing them back when they lose their mind, not if. Okay, because the goal isn't to avoid the dysregulation. Keeping them quiet all the time isn't the goal. It's how we bring them back home that is the key. All right. Now, what I think is also interesting, and I know I'm just watching our time here. Oh, we're like way over time. Would you guys stop talking? I'm going to jump into questions here right away. But in these resources, what I wanted to give you is there's some tools you can use tonight. Okay. So there's 2 minute bench resets, like name the moment. You can say, okay, you can have a plan on, call them a bench reset. When we lose it, okay. And you can say, I've had a history of losing it sometimes with refs. I've seen some benches really lose it. When we get to this place, we need a reset. And you can practice this in the dressing room. In fact, this is something that I've seen some really effective teams do. You shut off phones. Hockey Alberta has a rule that there's no cell phones in the dressing room except for if you need music. There's going to be exceptions all day long. And before fucking November, every dressing room is going to have a phone in it. If you are diligent about that, make a rule and stick to it. What you permit, you promote. If you have the capacity to not have access to social media, they will be more focused and they will have to engage more with each other. This is the key. This is so critically important. So as parents, grab the phones before they step in the room. Okay? If you remember. And you could just be like, hey, fuck, Coach Mike said I had to. I mean, bring it up with him. Throw them under the bus. You know what I mean? But it's gonna be super helpful. Okay, and also then decreases risk of exposure around stuff that they shouldn't be seeing and taking photographs. Okay, so being aware of those things to the best of our capacity is a big deal. I want you can talk about some things about like how do we know we're losing our minds. Shoulders are up. I often have a cue to anybody I talk to. You can just say like shoulders down. Shoulders down. Let's practice this before we go on the ice, fellas, okay? Or girls, I want you just to shoulders down, wiggle your toes. Shoulders down, wiggle your toes. Drop your tongue from the roof of your mouth. Let's do those 3 things. Desi, can you mute for me? And
that.
I can't see everybody.
What if we do this? What
Hey, little one.
Her camera's off.
Yeah. Got it. Okay. Yeah. So so all of these things are in your notes. Parent huddle. I did. There's a lot of conversation around car ride home. Um, I put some connection questions in there, some effort questions. The car's got to be the safe zone. And that's one of the things that I think practice in a lot. I mean, we don't do this very well in our family either, because it's like sort of this conversation of like, let's go over what you did. But oftentimes, even saying, listen, can we have a talk about the game, or should we hold off? Right. And I think that's sort of one of the things that becomes really critical, to the best of your capacity. You give them the power to say, we can stop talking about the game. Is it okay if we talk about the game a little bit? Yeah, cool. You tell me anytime if we need to stop. And it's interesting to see how long they'll let you do it. Okay. What is one thing you need from me? That, like, some of these questions are in there. Pre-practice, if you even say one-on-one, what's one thing about hockey? What one thing not about hockey that happened really cool this week? Knowing some of the cool stuff that they want, even the music, the playlists, you can curate all of that. You can get them to submit a song. Everybody gets to submit a song. You play the playlist, you control it. They don't need access to their phones. You bring the speaker, you do the things. You can step out, you can step back in. But how do we get sort of integrated into the team so that it's not just like the cool kid with the loudest voice that gets to choose all the fucking Tyler the Creator songs that are stupid? Or I'm just kidding. Or not really. Or all the Morgan Wallen songs, and like everybody else is like, this is so dumb. So, everybody submit to me, what's your favorite song? Let's make it. Okay. 6-7, what's happening? Post practice, what felt hard, what felt proud. Like, some of those things, just grounding instead of sort of just reviewing the game, becomes really important. Getting your team to communicate. You're really giving them some beautiful skills to speak up in boardrooms and classrooms. Those things become super important. Parent post game, I put a few questions in there, like, depending on the age of your babe, really, that really matters. But like, who helped you on the ice? Who helped you out there the most? Who did you help out there? Evan, my middle son, is a chirper, and we've talked significantly about this. And his proudest job is that he will repair at the end of every shift, or at the end of every game. Like, in the handshake, mom, I have this like thing in my head that I'm gonna be like, you know what? Sorry about that, bud, but it was really great to play you. I love your stick. And I was like, okay, so you be a jerk, but you then pull it back together. I mean, okay, so we're halfway home. I guess, I'll take it. But it's interesting to sort of watch. I didn't know he did that until we came home 2 days ago, right? So, what shift, on a scale of 1 to 10, how's your energy? What did it feel like to be out there today? And what do you want me to say next time we hop in the car? Nothing? Everything? What do you want? Those kind of things. Golden closer. I put this in here. You got to say this as many times as you can this year. I love to watch you play. And I think sometimes we forget that. Hockey's been the greatest gift to my family, and mostly because of the people we've met and the fun we had, and the going down the water slide at 2 a.m. with parents in our clothes. You actually want to try to get in a tournament with me because it's a good time. But I, as a kid, remember this the most. Our parents on a bus to Grand Prairie when I got kicked out of Tween C Ringette first game. You know what I mean? Like, because you're not allowed to cross check in Ringette, like some rules. But I truly, all of those humans mean the world to me. So these are memories that we're like weaving into the trajectory, and I want you to pay close attention to the ones who need it the most, okay? Because they're the hardest to give it to, and I tell you, it can change everything. I got some ritual suggestions that I put in here for you, like name and notice, like 3 appreciations at every practice. You can do this individually with kids. You can do this as a group. The captain of kindness, rotating the role to highlight kindness. That's super important that, we engage with the refs, we engage with the other team, like whatever that looks like. You can play tough during the game. Who's in charge of that piece after? Boundaries. We often talked about this a number of times, like if you're upset with a decision I've made as a coach, give me 12, give me 24, and then send me a snap, whatever that looks like, or a team snap note, but give me 12. Give me 12 hours until you reach out. And I'm not going to look at them for 12 hours, not because I don't want to communicate, not because I don't want to see, but let's revisit this in a minute. I put a few books on here too. John Wooden is, I think, one of the greatest coaches of all time, and he wrote a book called Wooden, which is just wicked. You Win in the Locker Room First. That's a John Gordon book, and then I've had Kristen Jones on my podcast. She wrote Raising Empowered Athletes. She's really on the game there. I've also done a lot of work with the coaches site, so I've put that link in there. They have created a community of coaches. I've spoke at their conferences before. I'm a huge fan, and they started in the hockey world. So there's lots of people really recognizing now, I think, the importance of pulling a community together that really needs some support. Because the truth is, this is a volunteer group. And I think I told you this, or I didn't tell you this on here, but like even this year, it was super hard for our middle guy who thinks he's going to the show. And got cut from the AA team by his best friend's dad. And I watched it break his heart. Not my kid who cried for 3 hours, which is completely fine in this family and essential. You should be that mad. But I watched it break the coach's heart. And that's not fair. And, you know, just even the conversation where he's like, buddy, Joe, I'm sorry. I'm like, don't you dare. No, thank you. That was the best decision that was ever made. Okay. And we will walk our baby through this. This is the plan, right? Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Don't you lose sleep over this. I mean, these are volunteer people trying to do these things. And I think really just don't forget that, because the memories are not made on the teams that we make. It's really about how we treat each other in the process. And we have so little time to show our kids how to do it. The rink is one of the most richest places to have these interactions and so show how, like, make sure you look at me, go over and say thank you to those coaches. I want you to look them in the eye. Do that for me right now. Right? They're here on a Saturday morning. We have a 6:30 a.m. practice on Tuesday. Our coach is a farmer. There's a couple of guys that I know are going to have to change their whole work schedule so they can be there for my baby for free. You know, so you bring booze. That's what you do. You got the Baileys, you know, not just a Christmas. You front load these coaches. Okay. If you want them to be nice to your children. Just kidding. Not really. The managers, I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on here. So like, I just mean, just don't underestimate how so much of us have going on. And it can be like just some of the most rewarding experience, even if we never win. So I got a couple of other things in there too that I just closed. But I want you to remember this: calm is contagious. Connection is the competitive edge. And I think that there's nothing been more truer. When I watch teams who have some coach at the helm who has an emotional language, who has a bit of a soft spot, who, you know, is okay to understand not what is wrong with kids, but what happened to them. I have seen magic happen. And I know we have 10 more seconds or 10 more minutes here, but I want to just say, oh, Marty sent me some questions too. I want to just say this. I remember coaching a kid in a different town than we live in now. And I had to separate kids on the bench once. And this dad came to me after and said, don't you ever touch my kid on the bench again. And I said, okay, sorry. I mean, I'm mortified that there would be some thought that I said. I mean, these kids were fighting on our own team, fighting each other, right? And I was like, enough, you here. And this dad was hot. And I was like, okay, yeah, you're right. I'm so sorry. You know, can we talk about it tomorrow? And we came back the next day, and I just said to him, listen, John, I've coached your boy for 3 years. I think he's amazing. And yesterday he was losing his mind, as was the other kid. And I wanted to make sure they were safe. I didn't intend to offend you. And I would love to talk to him about it. I'd love to apologize to him about it. Would that be okay with you? Yeah, sorry. I was just fucking hot. Like, there's so much stuff going on, and he's been through so much, you know, and I just don't ever want him to feel unsafe. And I was like, okay, Dad, thank you for telling me. That is the last thing I ever want for your kid. And I didn't know that you're going through a lot. I'm glad you told me this right now. Now, listen, you don't need to become a therapist. This is not what I'm suggesting. What I'm talking about is people are hard to hate close up. And when we move in, we start to develop, you know, you don't have to like them all. You won't. God, it's hard. But people are hard to hate close up. Okay. One ritual each coach and parent will try this week. Yeah, okay. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to be present. I mean, the more present you become, I'm telling you. Do you want to know the most vulnerable emotion on the planet? What I'm listening to in any dressing room, the most vulnerable emotion on the planet. People say this to me all the time. It's got to be fear. It's got to be. That's how you get people to do things. You scare the shit out of them, scare them straight. Do you want to know the most vulnerable emotion on the planet? Joy. What I'm listening for is belly laughter. What I'm listening for is some coach trying to do a TikTok. Okay. 6'7". Huh? That's that they do not know that you've spent hours on a play. They do not know. But when you know 6'7", I mean, and it's not hard. You pull out a 6'7" every once in a while. I don't even know what it means still. I use it all the time. What do you guys want for supper? 6'7"? Yeah? Okay. How you guys feeling? 6'7"? You're the greatest thing that ever walked. Okay. Now, some of those things will change, but all right. I'm going to read some questions now. Sorry, I went over time a little bit. How do we get more parents positively engaged? We are severely lacking in volunteers stepping up. I'd love to rally the troops. We're burnt out. The same handful of managers. Yes, yes, yes. Coaches, everything on top of multiple teams and full-time jobs. Amen. Okay. How you get people more engaged is one-on-one. You cut them from the herd. Okay. One of the mistakes we make sometimes is just gather everybody and we're just like, hey, anybody just email me if you want to step up, and all of us are barely hanging on. Okay. So what I really have noticed that helps a whole bunch is if you can even say to somebody, once you get to know people a little bit more, one-on-one, would you be willing to start the time clock, just even for the first couple of times this season? I'm wondering, and you'll kind of get a sense about who has the capacity, but it's a little bit like people are hard to hate close up, but it's also then it gives them more of an opportunity to be able to say to you, buddy, I wish I could. Things have just fallen apart at home. My mom has cancer. I'm caring for her every single day. It's everything I can do to get this baby to the rink. I'm just hoping maybe I could. Okay. So then a little bit more why. Does that take time to invest in that? Yes, it does. And I wish it didn't take that much time, but the payoff is so much better than being like, you know what? Nobody shows up around here. I guess I'm just going to do it myself. And then you show up at the tournament or the practice or whatever, and you're like, nope, no problem. I got it. This really passive aggressive sort of way of going. And once you sort of know that everybody else too is heavy and we start to sort of, display some of those things a little bit, it becomes contagious. Yeah. I would just like to say thanks so much to these parents who are going to take the time clock on. And I know, guys, if you need any help, I mean, if you could take a shift on that, that'd be amazing. It's sort of like the quintessential piece of leadership that when we're really good at it, we start to get people, they want to do a little bit. If they know they don't have to take on the entire world, but they can do this a little bit better. Sometimes that sort of helps engage in the process. The kindness, the connection, the compliments, all of those things. It's such a currency right now that becomes something that's really critical. How do we temper those super loud negative comments from the stands? As a manager, I need to keep our team's fans in check. How can this be done respectfully and not to engage in an argument or altercation? People are riled up these days. Yes, amen. Again, I would say the same thing happens one-on-one. I would have conversations about, even in the stands, if you have regulated parents or parents that, you sort of know can be kind of the calming force, I'd be like, you know what, let's just, if you wouldn't mind, when we're all sitting together, if there is a call that's questionable and people are losing their minds, if we can be the ones that are just like, no, that was a good one. We're going to be okay. And again, I think it's like if you have the capacity to even have those conversations one-on-one at some point, like, is there any feedback you can give me? Is there anything that we can do a little bit better on that bench that makes it easier to be in the stands? What are you noticing? Inviting feedback before they have to give it to you sometimes can diffuse that. Sometimes it incites it. So then you got to walk them through it again. But it really is in the response. Here's the 3 words that allow me to put a lid on for a big person every single time, and a little person too, and my husband, if you want to know the truth. Tell me more. And listen, I usually have to say, tell me more when I don't want to know more. If somebody is like, this is bullshit. You didn't play my kid. I clocked it. I clocked it. My kid was on the ice for 12 minutes and 24 seconds, and fucking Jackson and Juicin and Lucin were on there for 13 minutes and 54 seconds, and they're showing you, right? And you're like, I'm gonna knock your teeth out. That's what's fixing to happen here right now. Okay. This is U9. Okay. U9C. But again, tell me more, Scott. Did you see how I did this right off the bat? Also, not a good choice. Tell me more, Scott. What am I missing? Well, I mean, we pay the same fees as everybody else. And I just, I wanted him to have a little more time. And I know, buddy. And here's what I love about Juicin or whatever his name is. He's this, he's this, he's this. And my job out there is to try to figure out how I can do the best line. So thank you for telling me. I'm going to do my very best to keep an eye on it. Right now, the goal this season is to work on this, this, and this. Okay. But I'm super glad you're here. Let's keep this conversation open. Okay. And again, you might not have the end game, but it's like, tell me more. Tell me more. What am I missing? I say this to my kids all the time. What's the hardest part? And oftentimes you're going to then hear the hardest part, which is going to crush your soul. And then you're going to come up the other side. Okay. You matter more than anybody. And what I would say to you before you step into that rank or into these roles is I want you to drop your shoulders. I want you to pay close attention to where your lid is when you step in to the rink. Know that what's happening in that place of our communities is a lot of people are holding a lot of things, and it appears as though on social media, everybody's got everything together. Here's an insider tip. They don't. Everybody, in fact, on this call right now, 4 of us have a plan to end our lives. On this call. And so we're just doing our very best to show up for our babies, and we're really wondering whether we're doing a good job. Do not underestimate your capacity to send the coach a note on Team Snap, to notice a parent who's really struggling to hold it all together and be like, hey, I got to tell you, Grayson was awesome out there today. And he's a joy to coach. And sometimes you're going to have to dig deep, but do not underestimate that. Because what happens when those kids get in the car is they say things like, you listen to Coach Philip Chuck. Okay. That other guy's an asshole, but you listen to him, okay? Because he's a nice one. This happens all the time in teaching. I mean, you can ask my teachers this all the time. It's like when you sort of invest a little bit of those moments, it pays off exponentially, okay? How to keep the morale positive when your team may have a losing season. Your team is in a tough league. When that happens, I really like to set it out at the beginning of the year. What is our, it's going to be a bit tricky. What is our wins? What do we can consider a win around here, right? When we don't lose by more than 5? Oh, right. And so, the team is then coming into the dressing room. They've lost 10-7, and they're like, yeah. Yeah. And I think sometimes we sort of forget about like, how do you sort of set that as the win? We're going to try to get to 2 tournaments this year. This is going to be our biggest win. Guys, if we never win a game this season, how are we going to know that we've won? We ended up cheering in the wrong place. We ended up, this is going to be tricky. Did you notice we got to get everybody a goal? Who hasn't had a goal yet? We're going to feed. Everybody's going to get Andrew the puck. This is the job. Or, like those kind of things that really sort of enter into that sort of commitment place becomes really important, I think. How to keep leaders on the team to remain positive and lead by example. Do you notice the sign here? The theme here is how do we get people to be calm, to be invested, to be positive? And I tell you, the answer to all of these questions are the same. It is so much work, which is why many of us don't do it. But never underestimate the importance of one-on-one, of having a conversation, of taking some time, of making a phone call, of stopping by with the Tims, of having a conversation about the things that are going well, noticing all the other, really who you sit with in the stands, parents. Notice the ones that don't have anybody to sit with. If you've had new players out of town come to your team, we had 2 new players on our girls team this year that are from a different town. And they just said to me, we were so worried. We were so worried she wasn't going to fit in the dressing room. And she just told us that, that those first couple of practices were great. And so then I'm like, okay, I would like to sit with them where, what's the deal? Where are you from? That kind of stuff matters, how to have a parent meeting with a player who is struggling with their emotions on the ice. One of the most important things is you do that meeting. And you always regulate first. So here's what I'm noticing. And tell me more. What's it been like to be on this team? What do you need on the bench to be better, to do better? What's been your best parts about these things? You can sort of answer some of those questions. You're going to collect before you direct. Okay, that's the line that changes everything for me. Collect before you direct. You can do that with a compliment. You can do that with a juice box. You can do that with eye contact. You can do that with like, let's have a snack. Holy shit! Look, no, you don't say holy shit generally. But did you know I got chocolate bars here? Does anybody want Skittles? I had Skittles in my backpack. As a coach, I would carry snacks all the time, and like forget the nutritional program. Get bent. You can't regulate a kid with a carrot stick. Okay. If you want your oranges between games because you're trying to keep their energy up, that's fine. But if I'm having a hard conversation with a kid, I'm having high chews or Skittles because I'm going to get their lid on. And I'm not, hey, do you want a bag of veggies to calm down? No. Right? Last time you got your heart broken, you were like, you know what I think I need? A salad. You were like, give me beer and ice cream. Same. So it's the same. If I need to pull a lid back on, you know what I'm saying? All right. Any suggestions how to support an athlete who performs well during practice but can't perform during the gameplay? Absolutely. Okay, so I really want you to think about the emotional regulation. I want you to think about what's happening, how much social media access they're having around the time of pre-time to game, what we're eating, what we're listening to, what we're consuming, and what messages are coming in. What are we saying? Okay, don't fuck it up. Generally, we're not kind of that bad, but you'd be surprised. And just sort of the expectation around how do we get you back to the best parts of you, because what's happening is emotional dysregulation in that baby's head. Okay. They don't lose their ability to be great. If you can rock a shot all day and you've practiced and practiced and practiced, and then you biff it every time on the ice, what's happening is how do I stay regulated in the moment? So how do we make a ritual then that we're going to have a sip of water every time we get back to the bench? We're going to pay very close attention to where our shoulders are. Watch if your tongue is on the roof of your mouth or not. Drop it. A speech pathologist would say, I need you just to rest your tongue gently on the roof of your mouth. Many of us slam it to the roof of our mouth, which is a very primitive response to danger. Or stress. So every time we get an email notification, you and I, generally speaking, every day, we're like this, our jaws are locked. So in my world, I often just say to my kids, drop your shoulders, drop your tongue. And it's just a couple of things that you can sort of say. And if I get you to do that now, you'll yawn because it indicates to your body that you're safe. Okay. And very few of us, including our kids, have the information coming in every day, all day that we're actually safe. That this team is a place where I can be my best or do my best or whatever that looks like, right? So doing some of that reverse engineering into getting that physical body in that space can pay off massively. All right, last question. Wondering about team group chats. Often when we start a team, there is a desire to start a group chat, either on iMessage, Snapchat, etc. Thoughts on whether this is creating a connection or damaging it to open the door to bullying? Fuck yeah. So that is such a great question. I want you to monitor it as much as you can. Depending on the age, of course, the younger that you can monitor this. I mean, one of the greatest books of 24 was written by a guy named Jonathan Haidt called The Anxious Generation, talking about, access to social media and how difficult that is for a prefrontal cortex to navigate. The horse is out of the barn for so many of us. Most of our kids have devices. Part of the idea with, I saw personally in this house, Snapchat destroy a team. And it wasn't monitored. And then is it privacy? No, fuck that. If you cannot navigate this, you lose that capacity to be there. And you need to know that coach is going to jump in every once in a while. Then they're going to create a private one. And then you're going to have conversations about this is how critically, oh shit, hang on. To note that. I also think it's wildly important that kids they learn some capacity to navigate this because they have access to technology. So banning it completely is also a waste of time because they'll figure out a way to do it. So having honest conversations with your kid as a parent about whether there is a group chat that they're a part of and whether you can take a look at it every once in a while. Is there anybody on the team that you're worried about? Is there anybody that, says some things that I should be worried about? Nobody's going to get in trouble, buddy, but I need to know these things. So depending on the age, having those serious conversations really matter. And I would say having somebody in the dressing room is also really critical. We talked a lot about this in our female team, that the male coaches, of course, don't want to be in there for obvious reasons. And so we've talked a lot about having the manager present or doing a rotation of mums. Often when you have a mum on a bench, a female on the bench, the data is irrefutable about this. Emotions stay lower by a landslide. So consider that in any way that you can. And why? Because when people are more emotionally regulated, they say access to the best parts of them. And when they start bawling and crying, there's nobody like, you're good. Okay. Yes. What? Don't cry like a girl. You can have somebody that would come over and be like, look at me. Okay. Let's just make sure it's all right. The lid comes back on and they're back on the ice. Okay. Versus trying to hold it together. Okay. So you're creating that sense. Is this more important than when we were kids? Yes. Why? Because proximity matters. Think about the square footage of the house that our grandfathers were raised in and the square footage of the house in which we raise our babies. What's the difference? We had more eyes on and we knew more about our kids than we do today. And you can't tell them, you have to show them. So be as present as you can. That's the bottom line. Okay. I kept you 8 minutes, 9 minutes longer. I hope this was helpful. I am so grateful for your time that you give to kids in our communities. I mean, we're all walking each other home. I promise you, you are so critically important to my babies as I am to yours. If I'm yelling at your kid in some rink in this province, I'm already sorry. At the end of the day, I'll high five and give all the love on the planet. But just know that this is where the memories are made. This is where lives are made, but it's also where lives are saved. I promise you this season. So thank you. Share this with anybody you want. You get, I think we'll 14 days or something. We're going to make this shareable so that you can have access to it if you want to watch it again or print off the resources. I don't care who you give it to. Just give it away for the next couple of days or the next couple of weeks. The site shuts it down afterwards. So, but it's all yours. So print those resources off, give them to your team if you want, take pieces of them, reprint them. It doesn't matter to me. Okay. Cause I know how hard it is to be a parent and a coach, and we're just thankful for you. So thanks for being here tonight. And I'll see you. I think I do another one of these next month around kids and parenting or something like that. But anyway, yes, take care of each other. Okay. Thanks and good luck. Good luck this season. Bye, everybody.